Hello, my name is Tiana Duncombe. I am submitting this video as section 1, the measurement section, and data and graph section of my RBT Competency Assessment. So let's get started. So the first section in measurement is continuous measurement, which is measured in frequency, duration, rate, latency, as well as IRT, which is also known as inter-response time. So for frequency is how many times the behavior occurs. So if I tap my nose 3 times, 1, 2, 3, then the frequency is 3. For duration is how long behavior occurs. So if I tap my nose for 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then me tapping my nose lasted for 5 seconds, so the duration is 5 seconds. It's when how long it takes from the start time to the end time, how much time has elapsed. Then the next measurement and continuous measurement would be rate. So rate is about frequency, but with like a time component added. So if something occurs for like 10 times a day, then it would be like the rate would be 10 per session, 10 per hour, 10 per day, things like that. Latency is the onset of a stimulus to the actual response time. So if I tell a student to sit down and it takes them like 12 seconds to sit down, then the latency is 10 seconds. If I tell a student to read a book, from the time I tell them to the time they start to actually read the book, if it's like 30 seconds, then the latency is 30 seconds. Last but not least, for continuous measurement is IRT. IRT is the time it takes from the end of a stimulus to the beginning, from the end of the behavior to the beginning and start of another similar behavior. So if I tap my nose and then tap my nose again, the IRT would be about 4 seconds, because from the time I tap my nose and then tap my nose again, that time in between would be from the end of me tapping my nose to the beginning of me tapping my nose again. That time in between was about 4 seconds. So that's it for continuous measurement. For discontinuous measurement, they're kind of measured in intervals. So we have partial interval, whole interval, and momentary time sampling. Sorry, I get tongue-tied with that all the time. So for partial interval, the behavior has to occur sometime during the interval. So let's say if I'm monitoring a child's behavior for about 5 seconds, then the interval, if the behavior is occurring between second 1 and second 4, then it's a partial interval. With whole interval, if I'm monitoring a behavior in a 5-second interval and the behavior occurs from second 1 through second 5, that whole 5 seconds I'm monitoring on a 5-second interval, then it's whole interval. For momentary time sampling, the behavior has to occur at the end, the very end of the interval. So if I am monitoring a child's behavior and in a 5-second interval, and the interval from second 1 to second 4, there's no behavior, but second 5, a behavior is present, then it's momentary time sampling. So that's that for discontinued measurement. I went over continuous measurement. I'm sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied. I went over continuous measurement, then I went over discontinuous measurement. I have noticed that from doing some research, I've noticed that data and graphs, which is the second part of the measurement part of section 1, I did notice that data and graphs is kind of based on where you're located, where you're working, and how that specific company tends to do data and graphs, and how they enter data and graphing. From what I have learned so far about data and graphing is that when it comes to assessments, it's kind of measured on a downward scale or upward scale. So if the scale is going, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. The phone is ringing. How embarrassing. Okay, it stopped. So if the student, client, kiddo is going downward, then they're making progress. If they're going, and it should be rewarded with reinforcement, positive reinforcement. Or if the student is going upward, then they're not really making as much progress, and it shouldn't be rewarded until that student is going back down on the scale. That is the most popular graph I have seen. Again, I kind of noticed that it depends on where you're hired and how they do things and how they graph at that facility. As far as I'm concerned, that's the graphing system. So thank you for tuning into section 3. Thank you.